Okay, we're doing timeline wars, but to do timeline wars and to understand timeline wars, you've got to understand timelines. To understand timelines, you've got to understand multidimensionality. Whew, we got a lot to unpack in today's call. So I'm sitting here at the onset of the call wondering to myself, how the heck am I going to put all of this, condense it into one video, and make it very layman's terms. I don't want this to be woo-woo and something that's easy to misunderstand. I want to make this very simple, very, very basic, because the truth is the universe operates in a language of simplicity. The universe speaks that language. We create complexity through over-analysis and through linearity. So come with me on a journey. Let's go splish splash in some uncharted waters as we delve into timelines. It's actually the most exciting topic that I could bring you, because to understand the changes that have taken place within our timelines is going to give you such a clear sense, such a clear understanding of, wow, we really are ascending. Wow, things really are shifting, and it is happening. We're going to end today's conversation with two really important questions. The information you're going to get today is going to be mind-blowing in many areas, but the ending questions are what I'm pretty sure most people want to know. Number one, how do I know which timeline I'm on? And number two, if I don't like the timeline, how do I get off? How do I shift realities? Okay, timeline wars. To understand timeline wars, let's start with understanding a timeline, because we're all going to use the same word thinking we know that it means one thing, but there's a lot of you out there that use the word timeline to describe things that aren't quite timeline. So a timeline is a frequency. A frequency is, think of it as the scaffolding that holds a reality in place. That's what the frequency does. The frequency that you exude becomes the scaffolding that holds up the film set or the reality that you play in. But when you change that frequency, you reorder the scaffolding, you're going to reshape the reality. So timelines start shifting. And this is where we get weird stuff going on. We were first introduced to the Mandela effect in the 1990s, named after Nelson Mandela, for a very important reason. In 1994, Mandela was released from jail. So many people said, how can he be being released from jail when he's dead? There were a lot of people that remembered him dying. Billy Graham has, according to many people, died on so many different occasions in so many different years. It's been announced so many different times. People go, how can he still be alive? I remember reading the news and this happened. People remember movie lines. Darth Vader saying, Luke, I am your father. And then it became, I am your father, without the Luke in front of it. And then, you know, mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of us all? What fairy tale is that from? Is it Beauty and the Beast, I think? Whichever one it's from. We know these lines from our childhood and we've watched them in movies, yet now they're different. Instead of mirror, mirror on the wall, it's mirror on the wall. And so there's these little changes which kind of make you scratch your head. Songs ending in different ways, movies playing out differently, familiar things, familiar logos, looking different. So if you Google Mandela effect, you're going to get all the information there. Let's not go into it here because I'm going to waste your time and teach you stuff that you can just Google. That's not what I'm here to do. I'm going to give you stuff that you're never going to get on Google. So the reason that we've got all these Mandela effects going on is because we are experiencing one of the most amazing, mind-blowing proofs of ascension. And that is the collapsing of all of these timelines. That's what's taking place right now. The proverbial eye of the needle is what we are being squeezed through right now. And that means that many splintered timelines are all coming to a point. In all of these various timelines, right? All these various realities. Now, please remember, you're a multi-dimensional thing. If you don't understand what that means, think of it like this. A multi-dimensional being exists in many places simultaneously. That's your nature. We have been so dumbed down into a reality where only one thing can happen at a time. You can only be one version of you at a time. The truth is you're multidimensional, which means right now, today, in this moment, you already exist as a fifth dimensional being. You already exist in the higher realms. And I say this and I pause here because I want you to take that in so that you never con yourself into thinking that you've got to become a 5D version of you. Oh, I hope I can ascend. You've already ascended. Each and every single one of you already exists in the fifth dimension. The question is this: can you raise the frequency of your body, the body consciousness, to exude and to embody who you are at 5D? That is what ascension is. It's what you can bring into your body, not where you can go to. See, we have so many misunderstandings that have purposefully been interwoven into the spiritual community, perpetuated, unthinking, unblinking, just blindly repeated by so many spiritual people, until you can access truth within yourself and feel. Because that's what truth is. It's a feeling. You're going to be at the whim of so much misinformation, and you're going to be helpless because you're going to have people saying, no, point A, and then another person, no, point B. And your helplessness is going to be, well, I don't know who's right because I can't discern truth for myself. Therefore, it's absolutely imperative that you learn this fine art of discernment, which is the ability to connect with when you are in resonance with information. When you're in resonance, it's a feeling of calm in your body. It's a feeling of openness in your body. Even when the information is a bit unsettling, even when it's a bit jarring, the information is always going to lead you to feel, this feels good. It's as simple as that. When you're receiving information that sounds good but doesn't feel good, it sounds good, but you're not checking in with how your body's feeling, because something can sound enticing, but your body's holding tension. Check in with what your body is doing through this conversation, through every conversation in your life. That's what discernment is. It's your ability to feel truth. Now, because you exist in all these multiple places, the false matrix rubbed their hands together and said, okay, we've got a really good game going. Now, if you don't know what the false matrix is, there's a playlist on my channel on the false matrix. There's also a very good playlist on my channel called Cosmic Origins. That's going to give you the information that you're looking for if you've just heard that word and wondered, what can she tell me about false matrix? The false matrix was a group of malevolent beings who set about to ensnare humanity, to keep them blindly operating timelines from the inside. Let me backtrack and tell you what that means. A timeline, think of it as multiple trains at a train station. But each one of these multiple trains at the train station is operated from the inside, meaning people like you and me, we operate the timeline. We are the drivers who drive the timeline forward. Therefore, we are the creators who create reality. But when we don't know that we are the creators creating reality, we are the blind operators who are being fed stimuli, purposefully being shown things, taught things, ushered into a belief, a collective belief. This politician is bad. This country is doing something wrong. These global events need to be stopped. So we get given cues, get given information, collective information, that we will blindly, knee-jerk response, buy into and react to. We'll even get outraged by that. That's an operator. An operator isn't creating independently. An operator of a timeline is somebody who is, for all intents and purposes, brainwashed, stupefied, zombified, carrying out the process of creation, but it's not a sovereign creation. They are merely being operated, and then they are perpetuating the timeline. There comes a point, though, where one person, because that's all it takes, the power of one person is something I wish you would never underestimate. One person starts holding a different frequency. A frequency, when it's a high vibrational frequency like truth, it ripples. It has a very, I like what just happened there with my hand in the background, so I'll do it again. By the way, this background is not ideal. I'm recording in a very different space that I normally do, so I do apologize if that's kind of, Not the best background for you. It's just where I'm sitting today. So the operators of the timelines, when they start to see, wait a minute, we've got people in the timeline that we're not operating, they're actually consciously creating. That's a problem, because that spills over, that ripples, that becomes that ripple that cannot be contained, that becomes a life force, a creative life force all of its own. And then suddenly the timeline that the malevolent ones are trying to direct in order to keep it in the false matrix, because it's going to start to derail, and it's going to start, imagine it is that train, it's going to derail and start heading into the true matrix, which is the original source creation from whence we come. If that starts happening, timeline wars are waged, interventions start occurring. There's a continual process of calculation, because remember, the malevolent ones can only calculate, they can only engineer. They themselves are not creators. Go watch Cosmic Origins to hear more. They themselves are not creators, because they unplugged themselves from the divine matrix, from God's source creator, or at least tried to. And in so doing, they lost their creative power, which is what they're using humanity for. They're using humanity as a fuel source and a creative or a creator source. So we create on their behalf as these blind operators until we become independent creators. A timeline war is when they calculate. Remember, these people are very, very clever. They calculate based on this person's thinking. They're sending out a ripple. And please know this, a ripple does not have to be on the news, does not have to be on mainstream media. You at home right now, hearing this in your lounge, maybe you're even wearing your pajamas thinking, I'm doing nothing in the world. I'm a no one in the world. I'm not making a difference in the world. Are you living in love and kindness? Because if you are, you have no idea who you are. You are the ripple that cannot be contained. That's who you are. You are the ripple that expands out and starts shifting a timeline. So there was this massive desire to control the trajectory of timelines. And what would happen is the moment a person was picked up who was causing that ripple, they were in some way dealt with. Maybe something very fearful would have happened, some kind of intervention would have happened in their lives to derail them, get them back into fear, which would mean they would then be downgraded from a creator back to an operator, back to the blind operator, and then the timeline could carry on. Depending on how many people were, for want of a better word, infected by the love, the kindness, the ripple, depending on how many people that had reached would depend on the kind of methods being employed. Was it one person that they needed to bring into fear, or was there a collective fear that needed to be induced or introduced? So these multiple timelines sometimes would get totally out of hand for the malevolent operators, the dark ones who were controlling the timeline. And there were too many people who'd received the ripple and were going to start to wake up. So then they would set about creating an entirely new timeline and shifting everybody over to it, unplugging them from one timeline, putting them in another by ushering their thoughts, ushering their opinions, ushering their belief systems, which, believe you me, is the easiest thing to do. We all have the same talking points. Something happens with Elon Musk, we all start talking about Elon Musk. Something happens with Jordan Peterson, we all start talking about Jordan Peterson. When people start being opinionated about anything, really, they start building up an energy about it. And it's so easy to usher people into a mindset, be it a mindset of sadness, a mindset of outrage. All of these are very dense frequencies. And these create passageways into alternate timelines. This is how the malevolent ones have in the past operated. So you can imagine that they created multiple timelines to control humanity. Another reason why there were so many timelines is because the malevolent ones are many groups and many factions vying with each other for control over us, the creators, vying for control over us because we are a fuel source, vying among themselves. Every time splinterings occur, timeline wars would happen to see who could control the narrative. There was intervention from the galactic beings who serve our higher growth, higher consciousness. I'm saying this because I know a lot of you are going to go, why did nobody step in? Oh, you have no idea how long these wars have been waged for, how many different groups did step in. But ultimately, it was always going to boil down to this one thing. Could humanity steer for themselves? Could humanity, from the inside of the timeline, redirect? Choose love. Choose not to be ushered into somebody else's opinion, but rather discernment, to be able to connect to their own. Was humanity ready? Was humanity capable? We weren't, obviously. We are now. As these many, many timelines were set up over so many different years now, remember, they've got quantum computing. They've got a level of intelligence, these dark ones, that enabled them to keep constant scrutiny over these varying timelines. So they were constantly surveying, constantly moving backwards and forwards in time, and they would create disruptions in timelines that they needed to control. That could have been in the form of a war. It could have been in multiple different outcomes. But this is important, and this is beautiful, and that is, over the last many years, so over your lifetime, all of these timelines have been collapsing, because as we come to the ascension window, which is everything the malevolent ones have been trying to prevent. They even went so far as creating CERN. For those of you that know about CERN, you'll understand what I'm saying. They even went so far as to attempt to recreate an ability to bring new timelines into focus. Why? Because all timelines are collapsed. Yeah, as in this is already done. All of those multiple timelines are collapsed into one timeline right now. And I know you're going to go, no, Kerry, that can't be, because there are so many different realities. Yes, there are so many different realities, so many different frequencies, all contained within one operational timeline right now. So what we've got is a series of abandoned, kind of like ghost timelines. We've got a series of abandoned timelines right now, which you're tasked with reabsorbing into your body. Why? Why must I do this work? Oh, I feel like a victim. Don't go down that road. Because you're the light worker who exists in all of those many parallel timelines that are abandoned. So think of it like ghosts in a building. Many of these timelines are exactly that. They are the building, and many of us have parallel selves in the form of a ghost in those buildings, because it was energetically cheaper to leave the timeline where it was when a timeline was abandoned in the past, and when they were being collapsed into the point that we're coming into right now. There was a lot of debris that was left, and you've got to go reclaim that debris. So the work with timelines right now is to reclaim the fragments of you, the fragmented self, to reconnect all of those parts and pieces of you so that you are restored into your wholeness. I shared this with my online community the other day. I said to them, have you ever wondered why? You have a certain part of you that relates to your mother, for example, and a certain part of you that relates to your friends, and even a certain part of you to different friends. Why is it that your children and your lover and everybody that you know gets a different part of you? No one gets the whole version of you. Everyone gets slices of the pie. No one gets the whole pie, but you are the whole thing. Who has forgotten that you are the whole thing because of fragmentation? Fragmentation became a state of being, became a way of being. A lot of people feel anxiety because what they feel on a very deep, very unconscious level is, I can't do anything about this fragmentation. They step into a panic. They step into an anxiety because some part of them can feel a very disconcerting feeling, and it is disconcerting, that there are multiple ghost selves of you in multiple collapsed timelines that need to be reclaimed, need to be brought back into wholeness. The work that I do in my online community every single Friday that we meet is exactly that. How do you become more of a responsible caretaker of your field, more in your field, and more whole? The work is available. The work is out there for you guys. I'm giving you today just the information to support you in this understanding. Now, there are people who say, well, you know, all of these timelines have been collapsed, and we had at a point 3 timelines that collapsed into 1. Everybody's going to see things through different lenses. The way that I'm presenting this to you is the way that it's been shown to me, the way that when I connect to the universe, this is our conversation. This is our truth. And that's what I'm sharing with you. This information does not come from any other source other than me connecting with source. Please remember, your discernment is everything, because there may be nuances that you need to expand upon for yourself, see differently, or understand differently. So coming back to timelines, please let me know in the comments what questions you have. I'm sure there will be. I'll do my very, very best to answer them. But here's something that you need to understand from now. Okay. How do you know which timeline you're on? Remember I said all timelines have collapsed into one space, which we call this reality. This reality is it's got 2 paths. So one timeline with 2 paths. That's where we're at right now. One timeline picking up the fragments of many past timelines, picking up that debris, reabsorbing into our wholeness. Remember, a lot of that is trauma. A lot of the selves, think about somebody who lived in Atlantis. Think about somebody who lived in many star systems that were collapsed. It wasn't just on our planet that we experienced great cataclysmic events. Imagine people stuck in trauma. You get to reclaim all those fragments of self. It's such a powerful job. It's such a powerful work. You knew, something in you knew when you came to this planet that you were going to be collapsing realities from the inside, rebuilding reality from the inside. Now that we're here, these 2 paths, and I've spoken about this before, I have got many videos on this, and I will link them in the video description box. One path of our current timeline, one path leads straight to ascension. The other path leads to a 4D planet. Neither of these 2 paths are in the false matrix. That's massive. That means that where we're at right now, all that we have is the memory of the false matrix. And let me tell you, that memory is huge. Let me tell you, there are people every single day fighting to keep that memory alive of the false matrix, wherein they could exert power over other people, wherein they could exert dominance over other people, wherein they could manipulate other people. These are tendencies of the false matrix. Just look right now. Recently I put up a very, I thought, innocent video on both TikTok and Instagram about sugar. Hey guys, just be careful when you have sugar, because entities love sugar. And if you're craving sugar, you got a lot of entities. People went berserk because they said, I mustn't tell them what to eat, and they want to eat sugar. And it wasn't a debate. People go into this knee-jerk response. That's remnants of the false matrix, wherein I want to tell you what to eat, Kerry. Don't you tell me what to eat. I'll tell you what to eat. There is this vying for dominance and a disrespect of the individual's free will and sovereign right to choose for themselves. If I see you putting a donut in your face, I'm not going to look at you and go, look at you eating a donut. Do you know what it's going to do? It's going to make me have compassion for the me, the Kerry, that did that in the past. That's where you can shift to, where instead of coming at somebody in judgment, you can shift that into compassion for yourself. There are so many ways in which our wisdom is going to express itself in this world, and I can't wait to see yours. 2 paths, guys, 2 paths. Neither of them exist in the false matrix, but we have people holding the memory of the false matrix, resurrecting it every single day. Every single day. There are players still from the false matrix, very happy about that, trying desperately to get enough people to keep resurrecting those beliefs within themselves to steer the timeline back into the false matrix again. I don't see that happening. I don't see that happening at all. Too much has already occurred. The collapse of all of their multiple timelines has already occurred. I don't see that as a vague possibility, but they'll be kicking and screaming and fighting to their very last breath. So that's exactly where we are right now. How do you know which timeline you're on? You're in one timeline. The question is, how do you know which of the 2 paths? Are you walking a path to ascension, 5D, or are you going to veer off and move into a 4D lifetime? How do you know which one? The more comfortable you are with both choices, the less in judgment you are. The less in judgment you are, the higher frequency you're allowing yourself to be. You've got to get to that place where you say, both paths are beautiful and I honor whoever walks whichever path. There's no right and wrong here. There is only soul choice. And when that happens, you're going to feel a natural inkling in you that says, yeah, it's a soul choice. But I feel like, for example, I feel like ascension is my choice. I feel like that's calling me. Then honor that. I don't feel ready yet. I feel like I want to carry on playing. Wouldn't another round or a couple more lifetimes of 4D be fun? We didn't really get that here, did we? We got the intervention of the false matrix, creating reality for us from which we didn't even know that we were in the position we were in. We didn't even know we were as blind as we were. There are going to be people who say, well, I'm not done. I want that experience of gradually not having this instant shock and wake up, but gradually being brought to my senses again. It's not a right and a wrong. It's not a good and a bad. Allow yourself to understand that you shift reality every single day, because that's the final question I want to share with you. How do you shift a reality if you don't like the one you're in? Remember, you're in one timeline. But the one timeline that you're in has so many different potentials, so many different ways it can play out. But there's only one group of people now in charge of the timeline, and that's us, humanity. You need to let that one sink in, because this has never happened before. Because for the longest time, the false matrix was in charge of those timelines. You, me, collectively, we are now steering the timeline. We're creating it from the inside. And as we do this, we become a ripple that truly cannot be contained anymore, that nobody can block anymore, that even if you don't put words to it, because remember, guys, there's a lot that I can't put words to, not because I don't know how or because I lack the ability to articulate it, but because social media doesn't allow me to share a lot with you. And I'm okay with that, because I tell you anyway. I ripple it out anyway. I've lived on a timeline where my entire Facebook account was totally, without warning, overnight taken away. That was the one place that I had built up where I spoke to people. I was deplatformed without a reason overnight. And then I realized, because I was given privy to information, that that was a timeline intervention. And the timeline that that intervention took place on, that was collapsed when we all made the shift into this one timeline now. So yes, there can absolutely be still those people who attempt to exert control, but your ripple cannot be stopped. And I know my ripple now cannot be stopped. Even if you don't hear me on social media, I will be speaking energetically to you. I share this planet with you. My energy is rooted here. You are the same ripple as I am. We're doing this together. To shift a reality, if you find yourself in one you don't like, you first have to get into your body. That's the answer. You get into your body, you shift it from the inside, not the outside. You shift it by getting very present and by realizing you don't move, you don't leave anywhere until you've occupied it fully. From that point on, you're free. You're free then to shift timelines by being in the place that you once resisted. There's going to be more information on that for you. My online community is where you go if you want to really get into mastery of that one, from my heart all the way into yours. Lots of love. Bye-bye for now, everyone.